been delving into the family archives.
Yeah.
Now then, tell us all about your great-uncle Harry.
Well, he was an interesting guy because he was kind of late Victorian misfit. You know, this was the high point of empire. He came from a very nice, successful middle-class family, but nothing worked for him. He didn't fit in. He didn't take it. He didn't connect with all this. So he had a sort of slightly unsuccessful life going around. He went to India to try and work in the railways. He went to India to try and work in the tea estates. Then he made his own decision to emigrate to New Zealand when he was 26, went to New Zealand, became a farmhand, and while he was out there, war was declared. He joins the New Zealand Expeditionary Force, and they all come back to what they think is Europe. They're going to go to France, but he goes to Gallipoli, and he fights in this bloody conflict at Gallipoli for 4 months. Then he goes on to the Somme, and he has a little bit of a time at home. He gets a bit of a breather, sees his girlfriend and all that, goes back, and he's killed. He's the last New Zealand soldier to be killed on the Somme in September 1916.
And how old was he then?
Well, he was 32,
Right.
which is a lot older than a lot of the
but
people.
still young.
There were 19-year-olds getting cut down in the thousands. It was just horrible.
Yeah, still too young. Now, there's always so much research that goes into these types of books. How long have you been looking into your great Uncle Harry?
Well, a box of family records was given to us by some grand cousin some time ago. And it was like in the 70s and 80s. And at that time, all you're worried about is your own career and what you're doing. You're worried about the present, not the past, Family records, boring. But I found a diary that kept by my great-grandfather, and he'd gone on a walking holiday in Switzerland. And he was a don at Oxford, and he was celibate, but he obviously loved the girls, because every third line was, oh, pretty legs there, nice little damsel. I carried my tub of water up the stairs and all that. So he gets married, and Harry is one of the children there. But the Harry part of it, I actually only really followed that up when I found this photo of Harry, and it looked extraordinary. There was something about the intensity of his gaze at the camera, and he wasn't. In all the photos of him, you're not sure whether he's happy at all, and I don't think he was.
No.
Now, tell us how the director of Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, plays a part in the story.
Well, Peter Jackson, he's a great. He's obsessive about the First World War. His own great uncle's in the First World War. He's in New Zealand. He's got this huge production company there, and he was absolutely terrific because there were no photos of my great uncle on the battlefield at all that I knew of. And he said, if you send me his original photo plus details of the company and the platoon he was in, I can narrow it down and I can find you photos that I think will almost certainly be him. And he found these 2 photos of Harry in the trenches, and with this little sort of cigarette on and all that, looked a bit louche.
And how did you come into contact with Peter Jackson in the first place then over this?
Well, I'd met him actually. I met him in New Zealand. He actually offered me a part in Lord of the Rings.
Never.
Yeah.
Do you know who this fella is? do you know who you're talking to, by the way? Do you know what I mean?
Thank you. You've done your research. Steve, I appreciate it. He's not bad himself.
Life of Brian is one of my favourite films ever.
Uncle, though, isn't it? That's quite fun.
So, Michael, you're obviously a very well-travelled man yourself. Now, once you kind of was going into the research of your great Uncle Harry and understanding how much he travelled as well, did you kind of find yourself having like an almost deeper connection to him?
Well, I did in a way. I found a connection with him because actually I found a sort of kinship with him because he hated being bossed around. He hated being managed. He didn't become part of the establishment. He didn't like all that. He did his own thing. And I suppose looking back, I've done my own thing with Python and things and ripping yarns and all that stuff after that. I've been very lucky to be able to do something without being sort of part of a big corporate outfit.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
I relish that. And he had that as well. Mind you, he had no money, whereas I'd been paid to do these things, to swan around the world and be a general hippie.
And the Harry diary, I mean, he was a man of, few words, wasn't he? But they were still really helpful in helping you to sort of see a bigger picture.
Well, I thought what was good about him, you read the diaries, and he isn't eloquent. He's not Wilfred Owen or anything like that. But what he writes is very honest. And when he does get articulate, it's after an attack, and he lists all the mates, all the people who've died by name, who've died in that attack. He doesn't go on about the strategy, doesn't go on about the politics, he goes on about the friends. And I think that was the great thing about him, actually. The real camaraderie he felt with his mates there, and that's quite touching. And, you know, he lost out in the end.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. No, thank